Chapter 4 The Last of the Spirits. The phantom slowly, gravely, silently approached. When it came near him, Scrooge bent down upon his knee, for in the air through which the spirit moved, it seemed to scatter gloom and mystery. It was shrouded in a deep black garment, which concealed its head, its face, its form, and left nothing of it visible save one outstretched hand. He knew no more, for the spirit neither spoke nor moved. I am in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come? Ghost of the future? I fear you more than any spectre I have seen. But I know your purpose is to do me good, and as I hope to live to be another man from what I was, I am prepared to bear you company, and do it with a thankful heart. Will you not speak to me? It gave him no reply. The hand was pointed straight before them. Lead on, lead on. The night is waning fast, and it is precious time to me, I know. Lead on, spirit. They scarcely seemed to enter the city, for the city rather seemed to spring up about them. But there they were in the heart of it, on 'change amongst the merchants. The spirit stopped beside one little knot of businessmen. Observing that the hand was pointed to them, Scrooge advanced to listen to their talk. "No," said a great fat man with a monstrous chin. "I don't know much about it either way, only that he's dead." "When did he die?" inquired another. "Last night, I believe." "Why? What was the matter with him? I thought he'd never die." "God knows," said the first with a yawn. "What has he done with his money?" asked a red-faced gentleman. "I haven't heard," said the man with the large chin. "Company, perhaps. He hasn't left it to me, that's all I know. Bye-bye." They stopped next to a group of businessmen. "It's going to be a cheap funeral." "I thought he'd never die." "I'll go if lunch is provided." Scrooge was at first inclined to be surprised that the spirit should attach importance to conversation apparently so trivial, but feeling assured that it must have some hidden purpose, he set himself to consider what it was likely to be. It could scarcely be supposed to have any bearing on the death of Jacob, his old partner, for that was past, and this ghost province was the future. He looked about in that very place for his own image, but another man stood in his accustomed corner, and though the clock pointed to his usual time of day for being there, he saw no likeness of himself among the multitudes that poured in through the porch. It gave him little surprise, however, for he had been revolving in his mind a change of life, and he thought and hoped he saw his newborn resolutions carried out in this. They left the busy scene and went to an obscure part of the town, to a low shop where iron, old rags, bottles, bones, and greasy offal were bought. They went to a filthy part of town and came to a shop that bought used items. Several people were carrying bundles to sell. "All this came from the same place?" "Yes, a dead man won't miss this stuff. If he had been nice when he was alive, he would have had someone to give it to. Instead, he died miserable and alone." The shopkeeper opened the woman's bundle. "Bed curtains? You took them off a dead man's bed?" "Why not? He won't catch a cold. He was rude to everyone when he was alive. It's only fair that we profit from his death." "Spirit, I understand. My fate could be like this man's if I don't change my ways." Scrooge listened to this dialogue in horror. "Spirit, I see, I see! The case of this unhappy man might be my own. My life tends that way now. Merciful heaven, what is this? The scene had changed, and now he almost touched a bare, uncurtained bed. A pale light, rising in the outer air, fell straight upon this bed, and on it, unwatched, unwept, uncared for, was the body of this plundered, unknown man. The scene changed. In front of Scrooge was a dead body covered by a sheet. What? Who is this? The spirit beckoned Scrooge to reveal who it was. This is a fearful place. I have learned its lesson. Please let us leave. I would look if I could, but I cannot. Instead, show me if any person in this town feels sad about this man's death. Please. The ghost spread its robe like wings. When it lowered its arms, the pair were in a When it lowered its arms, the pair were in a different place. A woman and a child were anxiously waiting for someone. The woman's husband entered and sat down. Is it good or bad news? Bad, but there is hope. He's dead! To whom will our debt be transferred? I'm not sure, but this gives us more time to raise the money we owe. I feel thankful to be out of his wretched grasp. Spirit, show me some tenderness connected with the dead man. If not, that dark chamber we just left will ruin me. The ghost guided Scrooge through the streets. He recognized where they stopped. It was Bob Cratchit's house. Spirit, let me see some tenderness connected with a death, or this dark chamber spirit will be forever present to me. The ghost conducted him to poor Bob Cratchit's house, the dwelling he had visited before, and found the mother and the children seated round the fire. Quiet, very quiet. The noisy little Cratchits were as still as statues in one corner, and sat looking up at Peter, who had a book before them. The mother and her daughters were engaged in needlework, but surely they were very quiet. And he took a child and set him in the midst of them. Where had Scrooge heard those words? He had not dreamed them. The boy must have read them out, as he and the spirit crossed the threshold. Why did he not go on? The mother laid her work upon the table, and put her hand up to her face. The color hurts my eyes, she said. They're better now again. It makes them weak by candlelight, and I wouldn't show weak eyes to your father when he comes home for the world. It must be near his time. Past it, rather, Peter answered, shutting up his book. But I think he has walked a little slower than he used, these few last evenings, Mother. I have known him to walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder very fast indeed. He used to walk very fast with Tiny Tim on his shoulder. Your father loved him so very much. And so have I, cried Peter, often. And so have I, exclaimed another. So had all. But he was very light to carry, and his father loved him so, that it was no trouble. And there's your father at the door. She hurried out to meet him, and little Bob in his comforter, he had need of it, poor fellow, came in. His tea was ready for him on the hob, and they all tried who should help him to it most. Then the two young Cratchits got upon his knee and laid, each a child, a little cheek against his face, as if they said, Don't mind it, father, don't be grieved. Bob was very cheerful with them, and spoke pleasantly to all the family. He looked at the work upon the table, and praised the industry and speed of Mrs. Cratchit and the girls. They would be done long before Sunday, he said. Sunday? You went today, then, Robert? Yes, my dear, returned Bob. I wish you could have gone. It would have done you good to see how green the place it is. But you'll see it often. I promised him that I would walk there on a Sunday. My little, little child. My little child. He broke down all at once. He couldn't help it. I wish you could have gone to see it, but you'll see it soon. I promised him I would walk there on Sundays. Oh, my poor little child. We shall none of us forget poor Tiny Tim, shall we? Never, father. Then I am happy. Spectre, said Scrooge, something informs me that our parting moment is at hand. I know it, but I know not how. Tell me what man that was with the covered face whom we saw lying dead. The ghost of Christmas yet to come conveyed to him a dismal, wretched churchyard. The spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one. Before I draw nearer to that stone to which you point, answer me one question. Are these the shadows of things that will be, or are they the shadows of the things that may be only? Still the ghost pointed downward to the grave by which it stood. The ghost of Christmas yet to come led Scrooge to a graveyard. Its finger pointed toward a particular stone. Before I go closer, tell me, are these visions of things that will be, or things that may be? The spirit said nothing and did not move. Men's courses will foreshadow certain ends, to which, if persevered in, they must lead. But if the courses be departed from, the ends will change. Say it is thus with what you show me. The spirit was as immovable as ever. Scrooge crept toward it, trembling as he went, and, following the finger, read upon the stone of the neglected grave his own name, Ebenezer Scrooge. No, spirit, no! Am I that man who lay upon the bed? No, spirit, oh, no, no! Spirit, hear me! I am not the man I was. I will not be the man I must have been but for this to occur. Why show me this if I am past all hope? Assure me that I yet may change the shadows that you have shown me by an altered life. For the first time the ghostly hand faltered. I will honor Christmas in all my heart, and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. I will not shut out the lessons that they teach. Oh, tell me that I may sponge away the writing on this stone. Spirit, tell me I can change this by changing my life. I will honor Christmas. I will try to keep its meaning all year long. I will live in the past, the present, and future. Holding up his hands in one last prayer to have his fate reversed, he saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress. It shrunk, collapsed, and dwindled down. The spirit began to vanish. Scrooge held its arm tight, begging it to stay, but it shrunk, collapsed, and dwindled down into a bedpost. Yes, and the bedpost was his own. The bedpost was his own, the room was his own. Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own to make amends in. Running to the window, he opened it and put out his head. No fog, no mist, no night. Clear, bright, stirring, golden day. What's today? Cried Scrooge, calling downward to a boy in Sunday clothes, who perhaps had loitered in to look about him. Eh? What's today, my fine fellow? Today? Why, Christmas Day! What is today, my fine fellow? Why, it's Christmas Day! It's Christmas Day? Then I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all in one night. It's Christmas Day. I haven't missed it. Hello, my fine fellow. Hello! Do you know the poulterers in the next street but one at the corner? I should hope I did. An intelligent boy, a remarkable boy. Do you know whether they've sold the prize turkey that was hanging up there? Not the little prize turkey, the big one? What, the one as big as me? What a delightful boy! It's a pleasure to talk to him. Yes, my buck. It's hanging there now. Is it? Go and buy it. You're joking, exclaimed the boy. No, no, I am in earnest. Go and buy it and tell him to bring it here, that I may give them the direction where to take it. Come back with the man, and I'll give you a shilling. Come back with him in less than 5 minutes, and I'll give you a crown. Scrooge dashed downstairs. Delightful boy, go and buy it. Come back with it in less than 5 minutes, and I'll give you a crown. The boy was off like a shot. I'll send it to Bob Cratchit's. He shan't know who sent it. It's twice the size of Tiny Tim. Joe Miller never made such a joke as sending it to Bob's will be. The hand in which he wrote the address was not a steady one, but write it he did, somehow, and went downstairs to open the street door, ready for the coming of the poulterer's man. It was a turkey. He never could have stood upon his legs, that bird. He would have snapped 'em short off in a minute, like sticks of sealing wax. Merry Christmas! Why, it's impossible to carry that turkey all the way to Cratchit's house. Here's money for a cab. For the first time that he could remember, Scrooge walked out on Christmas morning. Good morning! Merry Christmas! How do you do? Scrooge dressed himself in all his best, and at last got out into the streets. The people were by this time pouring forth, as he had seen them with the ghost of Christmas present, and walking with his hands behind him, Scrooge regarded every one with a delightful smile. He looked so irresistibly pleasant, in a word, that 3 or 4 good-humoured fellows said, Good morning, sir, a Merry Christmas to you. And Scrooge said often afterwards that of all the blithe sounds he had ever heard, that these were the blithest in his ears. Scrooge soon came across one of the men who had been collecting for charity. My dear sir, I hope you were successful yesterday. Mr. Scrooge? Yes, please pardon me for my earlier behavior. Allow me to donate to your cause. Wow! That much? And not a penny less. The men thanked Scrooge profusely, and the two parted. He walked the streets, greeting everyone he passed. Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! He was kind to children. He talked to beggars. All of it brought him a sense of happiness he had never known. It is your Uncle Scrooge come to dinner. Will you let me in, Fred? In the afternoon he turned his steps toward his nephew's house. He passed the door a dozen times before he had the courage to go up and knock, but he made a dash and did it. Is your master home, my dear? Said Scrooge to the girl. Nice girl, very. Yes, sir. Where is he, my love? He's in the dining room, sir, with his mistress. He knows me, said Scrooge, with his hand already on the dining room lock. I'll go in here, my dear. Fred! Why, bless my soul! Cried Fred. Who's that? It is I, your Uncle Scrooge. I have come to dinner. Will you let me in, Fred? Let him in? It's a mercy he didn't shake his arm off. He was at home in 5 minutes. Nothing could be heartier. His niece looked just the same. So did Topper when he came. So did the plump sister when she came. So did everyone when they came. Wonderful party, wonderful games, wonderful unanimity, wonderful happiness. Fred was so happy to see his uncle that he didn't quite know what to do. But he was early at the office the next morning. Oh, he was early there. If he could only be there first and catch Bob Cratchit coming late, That was the thing that he had his heart set upon. And he did it. The clock struck 9. No Bob. A quarter past. No Bob. Bob was a full 18 minutes and a half behind his time. Scrooge sat with his door wide open that he might see him come into the tank. Bob's hat was off before he opened the door, his comforter too. He was on his stool in a jiffy, driving away with his pen as if he were trying to overtake 9 o'clock. "Hello," growled Scrooge in his accustomed voice, as near as he could feign it. "What do you mean by coming here this time of day?" Scrooge beat Bob to the office by 18 whole minutes. "What do you mean by coming here this late?" "I'm very sorry that I'm late, sir." "I'm very sorry, sir. I'm behind my time." "You are?" "Yes, I think you are. Step away, if you please." "It's only once a year, sir. It shall not be repeated. I was making rather merry yesterday, sir." "Now I'll tell you what, my friend. I'm not going to stand for this sort of thing any longer, and therefore—" Scrooge continued, leaping from his stool and giving Bob such a dig in the waistcoat that he staggered back into the tank again. "And therefore I am about to raise your salary." "A Merry Christmas, Bob," said Scrooge, with an earnestness that could not be mistaken, as he clapped him on the back. "A merrier Christmas, Bob, my good fellow, than I have given you for many a year. I'll raise your salary, and endeavor to assist your struggling family, and we will discuss your affairs this very afternoon over a Christmas bowl of smoking bishop, Bob. Make up the fires and buy a second coal scuttle before you dot another I, Bob Cratchit." Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all, and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good a friend and as good a master and as good a man as the good old city ever knew, or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. Some people laughed to see the alteration in him, but his own heart laughed, and that was quite enough for him. He had no further encounters with spirits, but lived in that respect upon the total abstinence principle ever afterward, and it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that be truly said of us, and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, every one. God bless us, every one.